If you don't like boring news but still crave the truth, then dive into The Robert and Crew Show. From mind-bending conspiracy theories to wild weather phenomena, we've got it all. Ever wondered what's really happening in your hometown, or what secrets the global news isn't telling you? We dig deep into the core of every story, unraveling the mysteries one podcast at a time. Join Robert and the crew as we navigate this vibrant, ever-changing cyberpunk landscape, bringing you interviews with the most intriguing minds out there. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, a news junkie or a weather enthusiast, there's something here for you. So strap in, listeners, because we're about to take you on a ride through the neon-lit alleys of truth and intrigue. This is the Robert and Crew Show, where the future meets the fantastic.
Welcome back to the Robert and Crew Show. As always, I'm your host, Robert.
And I'm the co-host, Crew.
How you been doing tonight, Crew?
A little bit better. I mean, I still got a cold, but, it's manageable.
That's good. I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better. Hey, Julie, how are you tonight?
Hello, Julie. So here's what's funny, so you guys know. Robert mistakenly made the episode yesterday, episode 5, when we don't have an episode 4. So we're going to do a chill episode soon to make sure we have an episode 4. But on the page, yesterday's episode does say episode 4, so on YouTube it will be different.
That's good, Julie. I'm glad you're doing good. Well, tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about the unique, dark tourism around the world. Now, Crew, what do you consider dark tourism to be?
Okay, so it's involving basically travel to places historically associated with death or tragedy. That's what dark tourism is.
Right. And that would be like certain places in Mexico and in Europe that have almost ritualistic death celebrations.
Yep.
Things like that. So tonight, we're going to get into some specific places. In those specific places, the first one being Varanasi, India.
Okay.
Varanasi is one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities. It's a big spiritual epicenter for the Hindu people, so like with they're very religious, and that city is basically their religious hub. In Hinduism, death is viewed as a pathway to the moksha, basically the liberation from cycle of rebirth. The Manikarnika Ghat, the primary cremation site along the Ganges River, the cremation site along the Ganges River. So basically, alongside the Ganges River in India, there is a site where these people openly burn bodies, and they openly cremate all of these bodies. And they do it in the open because the city finds great connection and spiritual connection with the death and passing of loved ones. Have you heard about Varanasi, India?
Yeah, okay, so they'll dig up all their dead loved ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
redress them up, start celebrating, them. And that was on a Netflix. Okay, so Netflix did a series called Dark Tourism, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, the host of the show, who would travel to all these different locations for the Dark Tourist episodes. That was one of the places. And you could clearly see how dead the bodies looked.
Well, yeah, but so sorry, so hard for me. So Varanasi, India is actually it's not that place. It's not the place where they dress up the dead. Um, this is a place where you can literally observe cremation rituals, respectively, from a distance, where families perform the last rites and sprinkle gaseous water and light pyres, and they do boat tours along the Ghat that offer a broader view of the rituals, while locals and guides can explain uh, trans, the Vedic traditions behind them. The atmosphere is intense with chanting, smoke, and a consistent flow of mourners. So basically, it's a giant open air graveyard where they openly cremate people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So this isn't where they dress up the dead bodies. That's actually in Mexico.
No. There's an actual place that was like, not in like Mexico area, right? Give me one
Right.
second. I'm gonna look it up.
But anyways, in Vernacai, India, these giant cremation rituals, it would be pretty eerie to get onto a boat and go down the river, and like the smell must just be horrific, having to be right there with all of these burning bodies, and they burn hundreds of bodies a day, by the way.
Let's see if I can find that show.
The Versailles is open to tourists. Photography is restricted. They don't want you taking photos of the cremation areas, to respect the families. You can hire a local guide for cultural context and to navigate the Bursting Gas River. The best time to go during the year is October to March, because it's the cooler months, and you'll completely avoid monsoon season around there. They want you to basically dress modestly, cover your shoulders and knees, avoid intrusive behavior, and be prepared for an emotionally heavy experience surrounded by death. The guided tours cost $10 to $30 United States, and basically the main cultural note from Versailles in India is that death there is sacred. It's not morbid, and they approach it with reverence, not voyeurism. The place you're talking about, I believe, is Tana Toraja, Indonesia. Elaborate funeral ceremonies. In the highlands of South Sulawesi, the Torjian people practice some of the world's most elaborate funeral rituals. It's rooted in their animist Christian beliefs. Death is seen as gradual transition to the afterlife, not an abrupt end. Funerals, which can last days or weeks, involve animal sacrifices, buffalo and pigs, feasts, and so they have giant family feasts and communal gatherings. They're costing families thousands of dollars. Bodies are often kept in the home for months or years, treated as sick or asleep until funds are raised for the ceremony. Where they have a ceremony called the Menem ritual, where mummified bodies are exhumed from the grave, cleaned, and redressed every few years. It's a striking example of the ongoing connection with the dead. The practice draws anthropologists, cultural enthusiasts, and dark tourists from around the world.
Okay, so it's over in Southeast Asia. I just found it.
Oh, there's another. Well, is it in Indonesia?
Okay, this is what it says. Uh, hold on. No.
Julie said it reminds her of when she stayed in a hotel run by people from India, and they scammed Julie out of her money. That's terrible. I'm sorry you went through that, Julie.
Okay, so it's in Southeast Asia, and it's called Nai Paja,
Okay.
and it's is the capital and third largest city of Myanmar.
Of Myanmar, and that's in
Myanmar, yeah.
India. That's also in India. Yeah, in Myanmar, India.
Also referred as Burma.
Yeah, Burma.
It is bordered by India and Bangladesh
Yep.
to its northwest, China to its northeast, Laos and Thailand to its east and southeast, and the Andaman Sea and the Bay of Bengal to
Yeah, the
its
Bay of Bengal.
southwest. The country's capital city is Naypyidaw, and its largest city is Yangon, formerly Rangoon.
And that's they have a death ritual where they take bodies out of the ground and they dress them up and clean them up also,
All right, hold
and
on.
they hang out with them.
It's called. All right, so this is what the episode's about. Uh, Flying to Indonesia, David meets a
Yes, it's
Toraja
Indonesia.
man. Hold on. David meets a Toraja man who has been resting for 2 years, participates in the Mainin funeral
Yeah.
site.
Yes, this is the same thing that I've been telling you. This is what I just talked about. The Tana
Right.
Toraja in Indonesia. It it is what it is it I read it earlier, but basically they're Christians who believe that death is seen as a gradual transition into the afterlife, and they keep bodies inside of their houses and sometimes in public places for up to years, and they let the bodies mummify, and then they have a separate ritual called the Menem ritual where they exhume mummified bodies and they clean them and redress them every few years, and basically they bring them out into the public and they have fun with them and they dance with them and they do all different kinds of stuff. They leave cigarettes and cigars for the dead. They have giant rituals amongst their dead. But yeah, that's in Toraja. That's in Indonesia. That's absolutely awesome. And I think that would be such a trip to go to Indonesia and see all these people dancing around with their dead loved ones. Yeah, we just talked about that. That was Toraja, Indonesia. Tana Toraja. Tana Toraja. Tana Toraja, Indonesia.
So that's number two that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number
So
three, we got
what's
Paris
number three?
Catacombs, France. Underground illusionary Y visit. The Catacombs of Paris, an underground illusionary beneath the city, house the skeletal remains over 6 million people, transferred from overflowing cemeteries in the late 18th century. The labyrinth of tunnels lined with neatly stacked skulls and bones is quintessential dark tourism site.
Quintessential.
Yeah, blending history, the macabre, and urban legend. Visitors explore a 1.5-kilometer section in course encountering inscriptions and eerie arrangements of bones, while stories of hauntings and secret tunnels fuel its mystique. It's idle for those fascinated by death's historical and artistic presentation, aligning while your interest is haunted places and cultural heritage. What to experience? Walk through the damp, dimly lit tunnels where bones form walls and decorative patterns. Read inscriptions like Erit Celeste. I'm not even gonna say that. Okay, let's see here.
It's Ara Cest es Imper de les Mort, which is stop. This is the Empire of Death, is what it means.
Okay.
It's the inscription above the catacombs.
Audio guides provide historical context about Paris Cemetery crisis and the catacombs. Creation, practical details, location, Avenue du Colonel Henri Rotengu, Paris, France. Accessible via metro.
Yeah, at the Rochereau station, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Access open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. through 8:30 p.m. Tickets around 18-year-olds adults and €5 for audio guide. Often sell out. Book online in advance. Limited to 200 visitors at a time. Except uh,
Spec
queues.
Hughes. Yeah.
Best time spring or fall for fewer crowds. Avoid summer for shorter wait times. Tips: wear sturdy shoes, uneven, damp floors, and a jacket. Cool at 14 degrees Celsius. No bags over 40 to 30 p.m. allowed. Guided tours, €30. Offer deeper insights. Cultural note: respect the site as a memorial. Touching bones or taking pictures with flash is prohibited.
Yeah, so they just basically like you can go into the catacombs, but they don't want you messing around in there, even though they're very famously there are people called cataphiles who live in the Paris catacombs. They go down there and they spend months upon months inside of the catacombs. And
Right.
there are big parties sometimes and raves, and there was a movie theater in the catacombs at one point, a restaurant. They had basically these people go down there and they build stuff in the catacombs, and then other people come down there and they'll throw parties. Occasionally, the police try to break those parties up, but usually the people figure out a way to get away, and then they just move everything. It's pretty interesting, actually, how many people go to the catacombs in Paris.
That is one of the places I do want to check out once in my life.
It'd be really cool to go there at least once before we ourselves meet death.
Yeah.
So there's this really crazy place in the Philippines, right? It's called Sagada. And do you know what's really cool about Sagada, or what's really cool about Sagada?
What?
There's literally a mountain with hanging coffins.
Okay.
Just one second, I gotta turn off my air conditioning. Sorry about that, guys. I know that air conditioning gets loud and it is very annoying. At least to me, it is when I'm on stream. But anyway, Sagada in the Philippines has a mountain that has hanging coffins. It's a mountain of Luzon. It's called Luzon, I believe. The Ingrot people practice a 2,000-year-old tradition of hanging coffins or sarcophagi off of cliff sides, and basically placing them in caves and on cliff sides, believing it brings the deceased closer, um, basically bringing them closer to their ancestors and their ancestral spirits. They also believe that hanging the body off of a cliff gets it closer to heaven. The elderly often carve their own coffins or sarcophagi, and the bodies are smoked to preserve them before being suspended. The visually striking ritual is combined with Sagada's lush valleys and caves, and it makes it the most unique of all dark tourism destinations. It appeals to people who are interested in ancient customs and dramatic landscapes, and it ties in the curiosity about global burial practice and like these in Portugal or Petra. Um, when basically you'll experience during your visit to the valley, you'll see dozens of coffins suspended off the sides of cliffs, stacked on top of caves, or stacked inside of caves, and some of them are centuries old. The local
Right.
guides share stories of the rituals, including the death chair, where bodies are seated and smoked, combined with spelunking in nearby Simaguagan cave, and basically there's a lot of there's a lot more cultural adventure around that area in Sangon.
Okay.
Um, Basically, when you go and if you go to this place, they want you to wear really good shoes because the paths are steep and slippery. Photography is allowed, but they want you to be respectful. Don't touch the coffins, or don't photograph bodies that are outside of coffins. And
Makes sense.
they're also saying that the practice is declining due to the Christianization of modern burials. So they're starting. These people are starting to bury the bodies in the ground now instead of hang them from the cliffs. But the ones that are on the cliffs are going to stay.
Mm.
That one's pretty interesting. The hanging cliff bodies.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, I have to admit, but not something I would want to see, you know?
Oh, you wouldn't want to see that?
No.
Too weird for you?
Uh, I'm gonna just put it like this. I had a family member who, that's all I'm saying.
I gotcha. So is there another place? There's some more places, right? You got another one for us?
Let's see. This one's in Portugal.
Oh yeah. Oh, I believe we actually covered this one when we did Portugal. If I'm correct, it's the Capela dos Ossos, Cathedral of Bones.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna skip that one since we've already covered it. Okay, so we got the Shah-i-Zinda Samarkand or Uzbekistan. What?
Uzbekistan.
Yeah, why visit? Shah-i-Zinda, a necropolis in Samarkand, is a stunning complex of mausoleums dating from
Mausoleums.
mausoleums, thank you, from the 7th to the 20th centuries. known for its vibrant blue tile work and spiritual significance, known as the Living King. It's believed to house the tomb of Husam ibn Abbas, a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, and other notably. Pilgrims visit for blessings, while tourists are drawn to its archaeological beauty and historical role. As a burial site for Central Asian elites, it's a less intense dark tourism site, ideal for those interested in art history and sacred spaces, connecting to your fascination with global culture, heritage, what to experience. Wand the narrow, wander the narrow avenue lined with ornate mausoleums, each adored with integral, no, intricate mosaics and domes.
Mosaics.
Mosaics, yeah, okay.
Mosaics,
And
mosques, and domes. Yeah.
yeah, observe pilgrims praying or leaving offerings, reflecting the site's living spiritual role. The nearby Gur-e Amur Timur's tomb complements the visit practical details. Location: Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Fly
Uzbek.
to
Yeah.
yeah, fly to Samarkand International Airport or take a train from Tashkent. 2 to 3 hours. Access open daily 8 a.m. through 7 p.m. Entry $3 to $5. Guides $15 to $20. Enhance understanding of Islamic architecture and history. Best time April through May or September through October for pleasant weather and fewer crowds. Tips: dress modestly is allowed, but be discreet near worshippers. Hotels in Samarkand start at $20. Uh, night culture cultural note. Respect active worshippers. The site is both attract a tourist attraction and sacred pilgrimage destination.
So that's just basically a big graveyard
Yeah.
where supposedly a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad is buried,
Yep.
and it's a pilgrimage site. That's pretty
Yep.
interesting. And that's in Samarkand, Uzbekistan.
Hmm.
Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Okay. Then we have another one we've got is actually the last one we have to talk about really, and that's Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The reason you should visit this cemetery for dark tourism is basically Le Recolete Cemetery is it was founded in 1922, or sorry, 1822, and is a sprawling necropolis in Buenos Aires. It's renowned for its opulent mausoleum statues and graves and notable figures like Eva Perón, and its labyrinth layout with marble tombs and ghostly legends. It makes a dark tourism hotspot, cultural landmark. It's got stories of hauntings like the girl buried alive or the spectral caretaker and supernatural allure. Um, tying its tying interests into haunted places and global cemeteries. When you go there, you'll experience strolls through aisles of grand mausoleums, some with stained glass and sculptures, other with decaying or eerie contrast, and a guided tour to hear tales from Evita's tomb, tragic burials, or paranormal sightings. The cemetery's art and architecture are absolutely beautiful, and it rivals a museum. Its location is in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Its access is open daily from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. It's got a free entry. You don't have to pay any money unless you want a guided tour, which is $15. Um, they do them in Spanish also. There's no advance booking. The best time to go is in March or May. Um, you should probably wear something comfortable because there's a lot of walking. Photography is allowed, but respect families that are going to actual graves to grieve. And it's a fully functioning cemetery, so be extremely respectful if you end up going. We always do have to say that there are practical tips for when you do things like dark tourism. First, always be ethical. Be ethical and be considerate, because when you do something like dark tourism, it can be very controversial. You have the risks of commodifying a tragedy or disrespecting sacred spaces, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to disrespect somebody's sacred space, and you always want to prioritize respect. You want to follow the local customs. You want to avoid intrusive photography. You do want to follow the laws and listen to the guidelines of where the place is located. You want to you want to be prepared correctly. So research your destination that you're going to go to. Um, you got to know the cultural context and the understanding of the rituals and what's okay to do and what's okay not to do. Um, for example, with Varanasi cremations, they're extremely sacred. They're extremely sacred. They're not performative at all. So these are people literally mourning, and you need to be as respectful as possible. It's not called the city of the dead for nothing. They literally burn bodies out in the open. Then you also need to take safety into accountability or into account. Um, Basically, anytime you go on any kind of tourism, if you're going to go into the catacombs in Paris, France, make sure you do it legally. Don't do it illegally, because if you get caught going into a part of the catacombs you're not supposed to be going into, it's not only a fine, but it could also be jail time, and it's also disrespectful to the people that are buried down there. You need to know your budget, because when you travel, you don't want to get somewhere and then be completely screwed over because you didn't bring enough money.
Yeah.
And then you want to make sure that what you're researching interests you, and that you're not going to go to a site that you're going to completely feel like you're wasting your time at. A lot of these sites that we mentioned tonight are extremely beautiful places, and we've actually got some videos for you guys on them here in a minute. So, what did you? Which one of these sites, crew, would you want to go to the most?
The catacombs.
In Paris,
Yep.
and why the catacombs?
Because I've always wanted to see it in person. It's very beautiful and very historical.
And if you could go to the catacombs, would you? What would be the first thing you would do?
Look at the skulls. You know.
So
Eh,
you would have to. So from my knowledge, there's a couple. Like when you go into the catacombs, if you do it the legal way, which you should do it the legal way, if you do it the legal way, then they take you to a couple different rooms where you do get to see full skeletons and skull walls. So you
Okay.
would be able to do that. Um, I know that some people sneak into the catacombs and they go deep, deep, deep down into the catacombs, and there's secret places like the Throne of Bones, which people literally made a giant throne out of human bones that you can sit in and take your picture in. But of course, that's a part of the catacombs that's illegal to visit.
Right.
Julie says Paris sounds like a beautiful place. The cat come the the catacombs are probably pretty unique but creepy at some times. It'd be nice to see it though. Oh yeah, for sure, Julie. It would be an awesome experience to see the catacombs. It would be very creepy, but it would be an awesome experience.
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite one that I've heard about tonight, besides the catacombs, would probably be the place in Argentina with the cemetery. It sounds like it's extremely beautiful with the blue stone and the tile and the mosaics and the mausoleums. Like, I bet they're extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love visiting a graveyard.
Oh, I know.
Let's hit this first video.
This is why history buffs love La Recoleta Cemetery. This is why history
Sorry,
buffs
guys.
love La Recoleta Cemetery. Located in Buenos Aires, La Recoleta is no ordinary cemetery. It's a labyrinth of ornate tombs and mausoleums, famous for its intricate architecture and famous residents. From Eva Perón to Nobel Prize winners, each corner tells a story wrapped in mystery. It's like stepping into a history book. So next time you're in Argentina, don't miss this unique slice of history. Ready to uncover the past? See you at La Recoleta.
And that's the Recoleta in Argentina. I would love to go see that too.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And that I believe is part of the Paris Catacombs.
Okay.
It's the Circle of Skeletons of the Paris Catacombs. And that's those tiles in Buenos Aires. It says mausoleums. That's where the Prophet Muhammad's cousin supposedly lives, or not lives, is buried.
Okay.
Lives. That's funny. I didn't mean to say lives.
Final resting place.
Final resting place. Absolutely beautiful.
Today I'm visiting the craziest cemetery in Argentina. Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires is Argentina's most visited cemetery because of the amazing architecture of the mausoleums and the vaults. It's easy to get lost amongst the endless rows of mausoleums, and it often feels like you're walking through a maze. The cemetery is most famous for housing some of the most well-known people in Argentinian history, including the former First Lady Eva Perón, whose grave is often visited daily by tons of tourists. I guess this is a good way to spend spooky season.
That's the other one. That's
Today
that's
I'm
the
visiting the craziest
That's the one in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
The other one is in Smartland, or oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. Smartland, right?
Yep.
The Torajan community, an indigenous group from South Sulawesi, Indonesia, dig up their dead loved ones, dress them in new clothes, and hold elaborate ceremonies for them. They believe that death is not the end of one's life, but rather a transition to the afterlife. The ceremonies are a way to honor their dead and ensure their safe journey to the next life. They raise their dead and hold these ceremonies every few years, and even though this tradition may seem unusual, to the Torajans, it's an important way to maintain a connection with their dead.
And that's the one that you were just talking about in the very beginning of the show, that you got confused with the cremation place in Nesarai, India, I believe was the name of it, or Varanasi in India. I'm probably butchering that. I'm so sorry to the people in India. I do not mean to mispronounce your provinces or places or states or places of interest.
All the bones here in the catacombs are stacked in sections, and in front of each one is the sign which tells you where the bones came from, which cemetery, as well as what date they were all stacked here. Pretty organized.
These old limestone quarries were used to house all of the remains from the other cemeteries. They were moved here and the bones were stacked upon one another. This happened from the late 1700s to the late 1800s to help curb disease and to store all of the bones.
It just goes on and on and on. Corridors everywhere, all underneath Paris.
That's your Paris catacombs. Now, they said they put all the bones under there to curb disease. Wouldn't putting all of the bones in one spot make disease more rampant? Or am I thinking through that wrong?
I couldn't tell you.
I feel like putting the diseased dead all together would just make a more rampant disease infested area.
Yeah.
Just my own personal belief. I could be completely wrong.
These people return after death every year. You might be wondering, how? This might be disturbing, but it's part of a death festival in Indonesia practiced by the Toraja tribe. Every few years, families lovingly exhume their ancestors, dress them in fresh clothes, and celebrate with them as if they never left. After the celebration, they place them back in their coffins. This unique ritual, called manene, is a way to honor the dead and keep their memory alive.
That's more about the Trojan people and their unique death celebration. Could you imagine going there and seeing that?
Oh, dude, I'd be tripped out.
Wouldn't that just be one of the weirdest things in the world to go there and see these people holding grandma who's like 117 now, but she died when she was 80, and they're dancing around with grandma? Oh my gosh, that's such a crazy thought to even think about. The Torhan or Trojan people, that's a very unique ceremony, and no hate like that. It's got to be extremely special to them, for them to want to do that. And I'm sure it would be to, in order to take your loved ones out of the grave must be oh my gosh, that's got to be such a crazy, awe-inspiring experience. Very spiritual, and I don't know if I could handle it. It'd be very sad. There'd be a lot of crying.
The Paris Catacombs are a network of underground tunnels that contain the bones of more than 6 million people, who were moved there from overcrowded cemeteries in the 18th and 19th centuries. The catacombs are open to the public and offer a unique historical and cultural experience. They are located under the Place d'Enfer-Trochereau in the 14th arrondissement of Paris. The catacombs are also known as the Empire of the Dead, because of the inscription on the entrance gate. For images and detailed information, you can check the Urbex Abandoned Instagram page.
That looked like they were doing it illegally.
Yeah. That looked like they were not where they were supposed to be at in the catacombs.
Yeah.
And they were urbexing. They were urban exploring. That's how you go to jail, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's something fascinating. Tana Toraja, located in the highlands of South Sulawesi, is known for its unique and elaborate funeral traditions. Funerals in Toraja are grand events that can last for several days, involving ritual dances, animal sacrifices, and feasts. The deceased are often buried in cliffside tombs or in elaborate burial sites carved into rocks. These ceremonies are not only a way to honor the deceased, but also a vital part of Torajan culture and beliefs about the afterlife. Visitors to Tana Toraja can explore traditional villages, see the iconic Tongkonan houses with their distinctive boat-shaped roofs, and learn about the rich cultural heritage that makes this region so unique. Stay tuned for more fascinating insights into Indonesia's diverse cultures. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.
So that's another sect of the Torasian people. But those people, they may also dig up the dead, but they bury their bodies off of cliff sides, which is another thing we were talking about, which also happens in a part of Mexico.
Sokushin Butsu, a unique practice of Buddhist mummification, specifically refers to Japanese monks undergoing asceticism to the point of inducing their own death and entering mummification while still alive. While mummified monks are found in various Buddhist countries, Japan stands out for the belief that monks intentionally caused their demise through starvation. In medieval Japan, the process of Sokushin Butsu took around 3,000 days, featuring a strict diet known as mokujiki, where monks abstained from cereals and relied on mountain resources like pine needles, resins, and seeds to eliminate body fat. The gradual reduction and cessation of liquid intake led to dehydration, shrinking organs, and ultimately death during meditation, chanting the Nenbutsu mantra. Remarkably, these monks' bodies naturally preserved as mummies, with intact skin and teeth, without decay or artificial preservatives. Numerous Sokushin Butsu mummies, estimated to be centuries old, have been discovered in northern Japan, with historical texts indicating potentially hundreds of such cases across Japanese stupas and mountains.
Crazy. That's crazy. I would like to go see some of those. I wonder if it's legal to go see some of those. Like, that's very interesting.
Manikarnika Ghat in Varanasi, India, is one of the most sacred and ancient places for Hindu cremation rituals. Legend says that cremation here guarantees eternal peace and liberation from the cycle of rebirth. With over 87 ghats in Varanasi, Manikarnika Ghat stands out as the primary site for cremation ceremonies. Associated with Hindu deities Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, the Ghat is home to numerous spiritual tales. At the Ghat, the sacred Manikarnika Kund is where people believe Lord Vishnu meditated for years. Cremation here is essential in Hinduism for purifying the soul and achieving moksha or salvation. The rituals are handled by the Doms, who carefully prepare bodies for cremation and guide them into the fire. Once the body is burned, its ashes are cast into the Ganges River, completing the transition to the afterlife. Despite its association with death, Manikarnika Ghat is a vibrant place where life and death coexist harmoniously.
So that's the river where they do all the cremation in India. So they say that you can take a boat down that river and you can literally watch hundreds of bodies being burned a day. How crazy.
That's crazy.
Imagine the place, imagine how bad that place smells, though.
Right.
Like, oh my God, burning bodies all day. No, thank you.
This is the Forbidden City in Beijing, China. Hi, I'm Travel Agent Meg. The Forbidden Palace is part of the dark tourism circuit because it is a hotbed for paranormal activity. There were plenty of executions and poisonings here, and since its opening back to the public in the 1940s, there have also been plenty of ghost sightings.
I would love to go visit some of the places in China for dark tourism. There are quite a few. I couldn't find very much information on them, so I didn't add them into what we were going to talk about tonight, but I found that video and I wanted to post it there. Chinese dark tourism has a lot more to deal with the paranormal than anything. They have a lot of haunted places in China.
Right.
Big burning ghat.
How many bodies they burn in one day?
Fix, more than 200, 300. More than every day, 24 hours, no stop.
How much they pay for the whole cremation?
One dead body take a price like 10,200, 10,500. How many gram buy you? If you buy more wood, more expensive. Buy less wood, less price. There are couple people searching. There are gold and silver searching in the water.
Oh, gold or silver, they are trying to find some jewelry, some silver, gold. I thought they were showering. So after they burn the body, the ashes they will just throw here and their soul will be transported to heaven.
That's that cremation river, man. He said 200 to 300 bodies are burned. 200 to 300 bodies are burned a day. Craziness. Those are the hanging coffins. I think we have another one right here of these. So yeah, they bury their bodies by hanging them off of the sides of cliffs and suspending them there because they believed it would get their loved ones closer to heaven or closer to God.
Right.
Does the eye of a mummy blink in the catacombs of the Capuchins? Some people say they do. Hi, I'm Travel Agent Meg. 2-year-old Rosalia Lombardo, who died of pneumonia in 1920, appears to be peacefully sleeping, her blonde curls tied into a ribbon until she cracks open her eyes, a phenomenon visitors have photographed. Unlike the other bodies, which essentially dried out, Rosalia was preserved with the process of using formaldehyde and water, plus zinc to keep her rigid, making her look hauntingly lifelike, but not alive. Catacomb officials insist that the changing light plays tricks, and that's why her eyes open.
Interesting. Creepy, but
yeah. Very creepy.
Death is viewed differently across cultures, leading to unique traditions. In the Philippines, the hanging coffins tradition has the deceased suspended on cliffs, believed to bring them closer to ancestors. Meanwhile, in Madagascar, the famadihana involves exhuming ancestors' remains, celebrating their lives with dance and music. In Mexico, Dia de los Muertos honors the deceased with colorful altars, inviting spirits back for a joyful reunion. Conversely, in Tibet, sky burials see bodies offered to vultures, symbolizing the impermanence of life. These practices reflect diverse beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife, showcasing our shared humanity in honoring those who have passed.
So in Tibet, they offer dead bodies to vultures. That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's something new I learned today.
Right.
One tribe in Indonesia has a unique burial practice. For the Torajans, death calls for a bigger celebration than even life itself. At this funeral we attended, bystanders throw water at boisterous coffin bearers, and the entire procession feels more like a party than a somber funeral. A tautau, or wooden effigy, is made of the dead patriarch, which they believe his spirit will live on through. For in Toraja, death is not an end, but a new beginning, when a person passes from the realm of the living to join his ancestors. And from the afterlife, they can watch over and protect the living. The coffin is now carried into the family crypt, where other dead relatives are waiting. The patriarch's wife passed on 2 years before. Now, they're reunited in death. Family members gather for one last picture with the coffins, comforted in the hope that the soul of their beloved relative will finally reach heaven.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that is.
How do how do you feel about the Toraji people pulling the bodies out from after they've already been dead and redressing them and basically like having dinners and dancing and hanging out with the dead?
I think it's weird.
You think it's weird?
Yeah.
Do you think you could ever do something like that?
No.
Or would that be too weird to be around?
That would be too weird for me. Be around, honestly. I can't do it.
I get that. It's one of those things that's like extremely hard to wrap your head around when it comes to those were actual people at one time. They were somebody's family member and now they're being dug up and danced around with. It's a pretty intense thing to see.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know me, but I know you, and I gotta see.
Vatican?
Catholic churches and the Vatican that have saints who are dead on display. Of course, that is a part of dark tourism. Anybody can go to those churches and see them.
Yeah.
This is the Trinity site. Hi, I'm Travel Agent Meg. It was here on July 16th, 1945, the first ever atomic bomb was detonated, and it became a place where the world was changed forever. Thus, the atomic age had begun, with the U.S. becoming one of the first nuclear-armed superpowers. This site is in the middle of a New Mexico desert and is still within a restricted military area, the White Sands Missile Range, but on 2 days a year it is made accessible to the public. Open house days are usually the first Saturdays of April and October, and you have to pass through military checkpoints, and you're not allowed to leave the prescribed driving route on approaching the site. Once there, you have to walk along the track that takes you to Ground Zero.
So that'd be crazy to go to a place where atomic bombs were tested.
Yep. I go to it.
Would you? You'd go to
Oh
that,
yeah.
but you wouldn't go see the Torhen people's funerals?
Oh yeah.
No, this isn't a picture of post-apocalyptic Paris. No.
Come on.
No, this
play.
isn't a picture of post-apocalyptic Paris. This is Changduxing, China, and I hope I said that right. It is here there is a mini replica of France's capital city. China's attempt to recreate the City of Lights ended up being more creepy than successful. It was built in 2007 and the Eiffel Tower stands at 300 feet. Today, only about 1,000 residents remain in this town. When it was built to hold 10,000, so the streets generally remain empty.
Yeah,
I'd go
so
there.
basically an abandoned version of Paris, but it's in China. It's an interesting little place. That'd be a cool little place to go to for some dark tourism.
Right.
Abandoned cities are always cool.
Would you dare enter Japan's most haunted forest? Mount Fuji lies Aokigahara, known as the Sea of Trees. This labyrinth is infamous for eerie legends, ghostly whispers, and unsettling disappearances. Local myths speak of yurei, restless spirits trapped between life and death, wandering aimlessly through the mist. Compasses go haywire, GPS signals vanish, and paths seem to shift. Some who enter never find their way out. Are you brave enough to step inside?
Yeah, you would go into Akiogara.
Oh yeah.
Akiogara would be an amazing place to visit at least once. I'd be a little bit afraid of stumbling upon a dead body though, because I don't know how I would react to somebody that unalived themselves. I know that I would contact the local authorities, obviously, but I don't know how mental psyche would be if I ran into somebody that had done something pretty crazy to unalive themselves.
Right.
That would not be a very fun sight to see, and that's what the forest is famous for, is the unaliving of depressed Japanese people. It's very sad, actually.
Oh yeah.
That's the forest that Logan Paul famously got in trouble for filming a unalived body. Absolutely disgraceful.
I visited the former home of Glenn and Rachel Sutton, who were both murdered here in 1987. Their bodies were found drenched in blood and wrapped up together in a roll of carpet. It wasn't until months later that the murderer was caught after leaving the scene of 5 more murders. At the time, Clinton Bankston was only 15 years old when he committed these awful crimes. For 34 years, this house has remained empty, and the residents of Athens, Georgia avoid the property and surrounding land.
Would you go to that property?
No.
Would you take a tour of that house?
No.
No. Why not?
Some places I just couldn't handle.
You go to Akiogara, but you wouldn't go to that house?
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Okay, first off, I would love to experience just once Akigara Forest. Because it's so haunted that you might end up seeing some evil spirits. Just saying.
So you're down to go to Akikogara for the chance of a paranormal experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. I understand that. You might get a paranormal experience at that house too.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would rather, go to a forest than a house, because a forest, you get a lot more activity.
True. Can't argue with that.
The Mexican Day of the Dead. Although it's not a single destination, it is an event that takes place over several locations all over the country at the same time. It's a celebration of death, or rather a tribute to the deads, held around All Saints' Day. People gather in cemeteries, decorate graves, bring photos and mementos, and even provide food offerings for the deceased. Then they eat and drink into the night by candlelight. Many people dress up for the occasion and wear elaborate skull-like makeup or skull masks, often in carnival parades. Intricately decorated skulls are made out of sugar as well. Many families set up little shrines also involving stylized skulls in their homes. It is a very colorful affair overall. The tradition has roots in other Latin American countries as well, but has spread into global popular culture to a degree, but is mostly associated with Mexico.
The Day of the Dead. I would love to go to Mexico during their Day of the Dead celebration. I think that would be an amazing thing to witness.
Right.
Would you do it?
Uh-huh.
Probably a lot of paranormal activity there during then.
Oh, yeah.
In the Philippines, you can find coffins hanging from a cliff. Hi, I'm Travel Agent Meg. High above the jungles in northern Philippines, the dead dangle for dear afterlife. For centuries, indigenous people have been squeezing corpses into tiny coffins, hanging them from the walls of sheer cliffs. For locals, the practice is part of a sacred ritual that begins before death, when the elderly carve their own coffins out of a single log. If they are too weak from age or illness, a son or another relative would perform the task. At death, the body is wrapped in a blanket and leaves, then squeezed into the coffin in the fetal position, representing how they were carried in their mother's womb. Once the caskets were only 3 feet long, so the bones would have to be cracked to make the body fit. The coffin would be sealed with vines and transported in a procession. Touching a drop of blood from the departed would be considered good luck. The coffins would then be raised up the cliff and placed in caves or crevices or fixed to the cliff wall with nails or ropes. There, the remains would stay for generations. It is believed that the higher a person, the closer to heaven.
Would you go see that?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Does that creep you out?
A little bit.
What's the creepiest thing about it?
Seeing all those coffins hanging.
So you think just by seeing the coffins, it would weird you out too much? You wouldn't want to go.
Yeah.
I get you. And it makes death a little bit more real when you can see the death, basically.
Right.
Come inside the catacombs of Brompton Cemetery. Established in 1840, the cemetery is one of the Magnificent Seven that surround London. When Brompton opened, they offered a range of burial options, including plots in the extensive underground catacombs, which were meant to be more affordable. Thousands of spaces were available, but only 500 plots were ever sold, and the last interment was around 1915. One of the reasons the catacombs weren't desirable was because they lacked the grandeur the Victorians loved so much in traditional burial, and Brompton had stiff competition with Kensal Green Cemetery. There were also several horrifying public health warnings of lead coffins exploding due to the gases released by the decomposing bodies. These shelves are the final resting places for a countess, a composer, and a politician. If you want to join them, Brompton still has plenty of space. The catacombs are only open to the public once or twice a year. The next open day will be in September, so don't miss it.
We should go. We should go to Brompton.
I'm down to go do that.
I'd love to go out to London and Paris and all those different places out there in Europe and check out all the weird, creepy buildings and creepy cemeteries and creepy catacomb places. I would absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that was the Capela dos Ossos.
Many different places to go visit.
So many different places to go see.
I wouldn't mind going to Slovakia.
Slovakia and Spain would be really cool.
Yeah.
Favorite dark tourism destinations I've visited.
World's most famous dark tourism sites. What is dark tourism? Dark tourism is when you travel to places with a dark past, mostly with a history of death and destruction. The killing fields of Cambodia. There are a number of sites in Cambodia where millions of people were brutally killed and buried during Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge regime. Catacombs of Paris, France. The Catacombs is a network of underground tunnels where you will find the remains of more than 6 million people. Hiroshima Peace Memorial, Japan. The site is home to Jeonbuk Dome, the only structure that was left standing after the atomic bomb explosion of August 6, 1945. Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. The camp was the largest of all concentration and extermination camps of Nazi Germany. Shoes on the Danube Bank, Hungary. There are 60 pairs of iron shoes installed on the bank of the Danube River in Budapest. This spot was where thousands of Jews were killed and thrown into the river during World War II. Kigali Genocide Memorial, Rwanda. The site commemorates the Rwandan genocide where hundreds of thousands of people were killed during the 1994 civil war between the ethnic groups of Hutu, Tutsi and Twa. Alcatraz Island and Prison, US. This erstwhile maximum security prison housed some of the most dreaded criminals in the world. Cellular Jail, India. Located in Fort Blair, the Cellular Jail or Kalapani was a maximum security prison for political prisoners during India's struggle for independence. Several of these prisoners were hanged to death. For more interesting facts, just hit the subscribe button. Thanks.
Fun fact, Alcatraz is being reopened.
Of course it is.
The House of the Devil, located in Rosarito, Mexico.
I wouldn't mind checking
Would
that
you?
place out.
Yeah, would you go there?
Yeah.
House of the Devil.
One of the largest mummy museums in the entire world is actually in Mexico. The city of Guanajuato once used to charge a yearly tax if you wanted to keep your loved ones buried. And if you did not pay this tax, they would exhume the bodies, store them in a warehouse, and wait for a family member or someone to show up, pay the tax for them to be reburied. Well, during the cholera epidemic of the 1830s, the bodies were being buried in mass graves. Due to the epidemic, many families couldn't afford to pay this yearly tax. And once they were exhumed, people were shocked to find that they had been mummified. Scientists believe that it is a specific soil in Guanajuato combined with the lack of humidity that almost preserved these bodies. The people in Guanajuato wanted to see these mummies for themselves and began breaking into these warehouses. So the city decided to build a museum out of the bodies that were never claimed. And the museum still stands today with over 120 mummies on display. It is haunting, and they claim to have the smallest mummy in the world, as well as the mummified body of a witch that was buried alive, and it is said that that mummy is haunted and they have her locked away.
Of course they do.
Let's go check it out. You down? Let's go.
For a witch, mommy? Maybe.
Maybe.
That looks like
That's
fun.
that. Yeah, that's that House of the Devil, I think.
Mm.
Okay, so down in Rosarito, Mexico, you're going to find Castillo de Diablo. This is a $4 million devil castle. A man named Tony Wells, who's a real estate developer, decided to build this from the ground up. He spent millions of dollars on the coffins, the vintage furniture, and tons of chandeliers. It's now become a hotspot for tourists. What's even crazier is how much his wife hates the place. They don't spend much time here anymore because it's so full of vintage antiques. If you go see it, you gotta go down by the beach and see the backside. It's even crazier.
That's that house, man. Yeah, you're like, I gotta go. For show.
Did you know there's a museum in the UK where you can walk down a disease-ridden Victorian street and watch a real amputation? For this side quest, we're travelling to the wrong side of the Pennines to visit Thackeray Museum of Medicine in Leeds. The museum, which immerses visitors in the gruesome history of medicine, starts on the grimy streets of 19th century Leeds, where we take in the sights and smells of a disease-ridden Victorian street. Then it's off to the mill, where poor Hannah Baker got caught in the business end of a machine. And if we follow the blood trail into the operating theatre, we can sit in on her amputation. There's also real equipment from the period on display, as well as a recording of an actual amputation. Then, naturally, it's off to the mortuary, where we can see a real human skeleton. Now, I don't know about you, but all this limb talk is making me hungry, so it's time for a meal deal in the cafe among the mystery jars. Then we're heading up this magnificent staircase to the second floor. Here we find more mystery jars in the apothecary, and have a look at some uncomfortable medical relics. And no museum trip will be complete without a look in the little shop. I got a bone pen, and I'm delighted with it. See you next time!
That looks like fun.
Yeah, the museums would be awesome to go to. That's like the UK Museum of Surgical Procedures or something.
Right.
In the United States, I don't think this statue would last very long without someone vandalizing it.
All right, we back out here on the streets. I gotta go get something to eat. So, I mean, we're just gonna see what we run into. I'm just gonna start walking in a random direction.
I gotta be careful not to get pickpocketed, to be honest. I probably look like a easy target, but I mean, my stuff's pretty secure for the most part. I've never gotten pickpocketed, but yeah, you gotta be careful in these tight spaces right here. So I just stumbled upon this beautiful little park. I mean, how could you tell this apart from Europe? I mean, seriously. You know, I really wouldn't be able to tell this from Spain if I had never been here before. Got on our Londo from Dark Souls up in here. How did someone build that? So we found some food. I'm gonna go in here. Comida Huasteca y Porcina. The Huasteca is like a jungle, or like heavily forested region. So I guess the food might be a little bit different than your average Mexican food.
Yo, so the food was actually really good, not disappointing at all. It was delicious.
This is a feminist statue. As you can see, you got the female symbol right here. I guess a lot of girls come here and but yeah, this is against domestic violence against the women.
That looks like, I mean, kind of fun. Not something I'd go look for.
What about that weird statue that looked like a KKK member?
Yeah.
That was weird. Like, what significance does that have in Mexico?
Right.
I wonder. But anyways, what was your favorite thing you got to learn about tonight?
The catacombs.
The catacombs of Paris?
Mm-hmm.
You seem to know a little bit about the Trojan people before all this.
Kinda.
And that was because you watched that series on Netflix, that Dark Tourism series.
Yeah, it was like only one season with 8 episodes, but it was still good.
It was a good. That was a completely amazing series.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, this is probably going to wrap up our episode for tonight. That was our episode on dark tourism. If you enjoyed it, I hope you leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to the videos. We've got a TikTok channel now. We have a YouTube channel. We have a Facebook group, and we have a Twitch page. So wherever you guys want to look for us, you can find us. Just type in the Robert and Crew Show or the Rob and Crew Show, and you shall find it. Thank you so much tonight, everybody. Much love from the Robert and Crew Show. Peace out.
If you don't like boring news but still crave the truth, then dive into The Robert and Crew Show. From mind-bending conspiracy theories to wild weather phenomena, we've got it all. Ever wondered what's really happening in your hometown, or what secrets the global news isn't telling you? We dig deep into the core of every story, unraveling the mysteries one podcast at a time. Join Robert and the crew as we navigate this vibrant, ever-changing cyberpunk landscape, bringing you interviews with the most intriguing minds out there. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, a news junkie or a weather enthusiast, there's something here for you. So strap in, listeners, because we're about to take you on a ride through the neon-lit alleys of truth and intrigue. This is the Robert and Crew Show, where the future meets the fantastic.